It looks like Anthony Joshua's next fight is going to be at the O2 Arena on January the 31st against Kevin Kingpin Johnson. I think this is a spectacular opponent for Joshua. In fact, if I could have picked any opponent in the world for his next fight, if I was managing him, I would have picked Kevin Johnson, and I would have moved heaven and earth to make this fight happen. Let me tell you why. Firstly, people are starting to slag off Anthony Joshua's level of competition. I don't disagree with the Baktov and Sprott fights. The reasons being, Sprott was made before Baktov, and nobody could have predicted how devastating he'd look against Baktov. And, I thought the Baktov fight wasn't too bad. Baktov's a very, very durable guy, gone late with some really decent fighters. Nobody could have predicted Joshua would have got rid of him that quickly. So, I personally don't criticise that fight. However, I do think it's time for a step up, and I do think Kevin Johnson represents a step up. I mean, this is a guy who fought Vitaly Klitschko for the World Heavyweight Championship. Secondly, I think Kevin Johnson represents a different challenge for two reasons. Number one, the guy is exceptionally durable. He's never been knocked out. He went the distance with Derek Chisora. He went the distance with Tyson Fury. And most impressively, he went the distance with Vitaly Klitschko. This is a guy who Anthony Joshua is probably not just going to get out of there in one round. Now, Anthony Joshua, especially when you see such a big, well-muscled heavyweight, you worry about their stamina. You worry, how will they cope in rounds 8, 9, 10, 11, 12? Now, Joshua's been in fights that have been 10, 12 rounds scheduled, but he's never gone beyond 2 or 3. And I think, even if it's not competitive, even if Kevin Johnson is just defending and staying on the ropes, and, not really coming to fight, even if that is the case, it's going to be a useful learning experience for Joshua to get the rounds. A lot of people, well, not a lot of people, I've had 1 or 2 comments. There was one on my YouTube video the other day, actually, saying that they're not 100%, it might have even been Copend who commented, saying that there's a slight bit of doubt now about Anthony Joshua's punching power. Now, hard as that is to believe, maybe there's a point there. He's not exactly knocking Baktov and Sprott out cold. It's not a brutal knockout of Michael Sprott like we saw by, Erkan Tepe perhaps. He's more sort of getting the fight waved off, referee jumping in, and this seems to be happening in a lot of recent Joshua fights. So I think Kevin Johnson gives Joshua a chance to show real power, because if you go the distance with Klitschko, Fury, Chisora, if Joshua goes and blows him out in 3 or 4 rounds, we do know this guy has got tremendous power. And I'm not saying Joshua isn't a hard puncher, clearly he is, but I'm yet to be convinced he's a David Price or a Deontay Wilder style puncher. So Kevin Johnson will give him the opportunity to do that, or we'll take him rounds and we'll give him the opportunity to sort of prove his stamina. So I think we're either going to get a proof of power or proof of stamina. Now, Kevin Johnson, he's not a casual fan's friend. He doesn't create the most electrifying fighting spectacles. He's very, very defensively minded. But I think he doesn't necessarily come to win. I don't think he travelled to Australia and beat Leo Pai, but he's lost fights that he shouldn't have lost recently. I thought he'd be competitive against Chisora. I thought he'd be very competitive against Christian Hamer. But he just didn't throw enough. He was too inactive. He probably isn't the biggest puncher in the world. As such, it's very unlikely that he's going to cause an upset against Anthony Joshua. I don't see Kevin Johnson having the power to knock Anthony Joshua out. And I don't see him having the work rate to get the decision on points. So I don't think Kevin Johnson is a test. However, I do think he will ask questions of Joshua. Specifically, I don't think Joshua's been in with opponents with advanced defence. Sprott, Baktov, Eretz, Leg, Skelton, these guys are all open at the elite level. They're very hittable. For me, Kevin Johnson's got advanced defence. He's got a good jab. He's got good positioning. He works angles well. He's a bit more technical than the guys I've just mentioned. And for me, it will be interesting to see not just how hard Anthony Joshua is hitting Kevin Johnson, but how he works his way in, how he deals with Kevin Johnson's more technically minded defence. So I think it's a great fight. I'd be surprised at this stage if Joshua knocked Kevin Johnson out, which means we'll get proof of Joshua over a large amount of rounds, and we'll get proof over his stamina. Could be a very, very interesting test indeed. And as I say, if he does knock Kevin Johnson out, we have to concede that this guy is a real massive puncher. So I'm very much looking forward to this fight. Let me know your thoughts on it. Do you see this going the same way the Sprott and Baktov fights went, or do you think Johnson's a step up?